us are probably saying like, I'm trying to land interviews. But feel free to let us know in the chat. And if you brought any really pressing questions, please also, okay, got it. Please also drop that into, okay, landing interviews at the leadership level, getting started, edit my resume. Okay, good materials. Okay, it is almost 5 minutes after, so I know we'll probably still have a few more people joining. As you join, please feel free to join with camera and mic and follow suit, throw in your highest priority job search challenge. That really helps all of us kind of center on what our goals are for today. Okay, we're gonna dive right in. I am going to share my screen and we'll all have a chance to interact and get to know each other as we work together today. This is an interactive session. Okay, we are all here to land a job, all of us at different points in the process. To land a job, we need to start, oops, just a moment, lots of browsers going on here. Lots of browser stuff. Okay, we're all here to land a job. And to land a job, we need to say things that get us hired. So we're going to start with elevator pitches. So I'm going to go ahead and just introduce myself, and then we'll talk about the elevator pitch structure. But as I introduce myself, listen, see what you can absorb. Some of you have heard my elevator pitch before, some of you haven't. So hi, everyone. I'm Melinda Kohler. I am the founder here at Roadmap. And I've been in tech and education for 2 decades. Previously co-founded Almanac, valued at $120 million. And I'm really excited to be here with all of you and learn how we can move forward in our job search. Does anyone remember anything that I just said? Feel free to just shout out something that you remember.
But you co-founded, like you had a startup which sold for a significant amount.
Oh my gosh, I am so glad you said that. I had a startup that was valued at $120 million, but I love that our human brain immediately thinks, oh, Melinda sold a startup for $120 million, because that means that if I were doing a coffee chat with you or an interview, you would want to find out about that. Okay, so you remember the 120 million. Did anyone pick up anything else from that elevator pitch?
That you've been in tech for over 2 decades.
Yeah, tech and education, amazing. You guys are really good at reflecting back. It's hard to pick up information in such a short period. And I like to demonstrate that because throughout our career, and especially with job search, we'll get an opportunity to use this elevator pitch tool. When we meet someone for the first time, we can make sure they remember us and take advantage of that opportunity to build a lot of power and connection. And you'll all get this workbook. In fact, let me drop the link to it so you don't feel like you have to take, I didn't get the link to that. Okay, I'm going to give you the link afterwards because there's too many browser windows going on, but you'll all get a link to this. So feel free to take screenshots and notes, but you'll also get a link to it. But this elevator pitch structure, to make sure someone remembers you, you need to know what they're going to remember you for. And the first thing that I heard from all of you about what you remembered was that 120 million. I specifically strategically thought that through. What's the biggest number I can throw out there? Oh yeah, I co-founded a company that was valued at $120 million at Series A. So that was my big key result. Not just a key results robot. I can't just go around and say like 120 million, that's my value. So a little bit of context, right? I let people know, hey, I've been in tech and education for 2 decades. Recently, I co-founded a company valued at $120 million. And I'm really excited to be here with all of you and move forward in our job search. So all of you are going to get an opportunity to construct an elevator pitch like this. 20 seconds is all it takes to have a recruiter, the friend that you talk to, race to a leader and is like, oh my gosh, I met this person. I don't remember anything about them, but they co-founded this company and we got to talk to them. Here's an email, here's their resume. And that happens all the time to people in the roadmap community. So say things that get you hired. Start with your elevator pitch, but your elevator pitch needs a key result. So we're going to back up and just our agenda for today. We already got into it. Wanted to introduce myself with the elevator pitch. Want all of you to see that structure. We're going to talk about how that elevator pitch drives the job search process. And then we're going to talk about that $120 million, the key results, how we can all get to the point where we just have a whole list of key results to turn to. We're going to practice some stuff in breakout rooms together to start brainstorming and getting to the core of what those results are. Some of you probably already have your results, and it's just getting comfortable talking about them. We're not trained to go out and just say, hi, I'm this big result that I added business value, but we'll figure out how to do it organically together. And then we'll look at some exercises that you can take with you after today to keep moving forward in your job search and talk about what's coming up next for Roadmap, our job search mastery cohort. So that's our agenda. We'll get to talk throughout and we'll have plenty of time to answer questions and review challenges and also just take learnings from everyone. So right now, I'm curious if anyone has any reflections on the elevator pitch. You've all had conversations throughout your whole career, had a chance to introduce yourself. You're looking at this saying, oh, this works because, or there's no way this will work. Any challenges to the process or just thoughts?
Can I ask a question?
Please, yes.
Yeah. So what happens if like you've actually throughout your career, you've had a lot of such numbers? Would it be then okay to say something like, what you want to demonstrate is scale and the fact that you've had impact? And would it be okay to say that I've managed big teams and products, and the most recent of which is, for example, $50 million investment, 500 plus people, $500 million revenue? Like, I'm trying to understand, because you can't say a lot, but you want to say that you've done enough. Is this an okay way? That's where I get confused.
It's a fantastic way. Think of that as like a cumulative key results statement, which should absolutely be in the executive summary on your resume. I've worked at X number of companies. I've managed X number of products serving over X millions of users, products valuing X amount of dollars, or, that you can think about that cumulative summary however you think will best resonate with your audience. I've managed over X number of products recently valuing 50 million, or a total of products valuing any range from X million to X million, or you can just take all those millions and add them up. Play with it, see what feels comfortable, and then as you go and conduct your job search and just talk to people that are at today's session, see how people respond. See if people have a conversation with someone here, and then after the conversation, ask them, 10 minutes later, do you remember anything from my elevator pitch, from how I introduced myself? So the goal is, like you said, simple, right? And how can we simplify that and make it memorable?
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
So how do you recommend to quantify the key result? If, like, for example, for someone like me from an engineering background, where a lot of my work is developing and not like managing product, and from a standpoint of a small startup company, if I have a concern that, like, if I throw out the revenue number compared to other big companies, those numbers are very insignificant. So how do you make the key results sound like something impactful to the audience?
I have thoughts on that, but I also want to put it to the group if anyone is, their mind is zipping and you're like, I've worked with so many engineers, I know the answer. So I'll give it a moment if somebody else wants to comment. Randani.
Well, I'll comment. I was a front-end developer before I transitioned to technical writing. So what I did is I made sure that I spoke to the designers because they have more data and they have more scope of what the stakeholder wanted. So whatever we've developed, maybe I'll go back to the designers that I was working with and I'll ask, how's that project or product doing? If it's in beta, I'll ask if they have roughly a number on that. Then I'll build and then I'll go and build a story, which might be, I develop a software which is which is in beta and currently used by, let's say if the designer had said 1,000 users, I would say, okay, the product, it's in beta mode and now it's used by 1,200 user. While I was developing this, I would also focus on the collaboration that I did. I worked with product designers and then I've just summarized what I did or what was I responsible of as a developer in that project.
I see. Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll take one more share. Oh, let's see. I see
Oh,
one
sure.
hand, and then
Yeah.
we'll also, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that so I've come from a development into delivery and then product background. And one of the things that I would say to you is because I've seen all sides of the house, I really feel that we don't sell what developers do well. So I think if we start to look at it from the point of view, what was the problem that you're trying to solve, and how you as contributed to solving that problem and take a big picture, I think that really helps in creating a good sort of story. That would be my only, so like if you put that hat on, you'll have lots of revisions and you'll come up with something which is really impressive, but start with looking at what problem you were solving and how you solved it.
I see. And
Yeah,
how do you normally quantify that? Like,
You
Well-
can, so sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So like what I'm trying to say here is, so if you knew this was the problem, let me just say that the problem is, I'm just going to take an example. Tax professionals, spend a lot of time looking through documents. And so I came up with, my team came up with a document intelligence software, right? Which is
Yeah.
going to cut down on their time, et cetera, et cetera. There has to be a problem that's a product is solving, and it's solving it in tangible, concrete ways. We just don't think of it like that. And then you go back and you see, okay, as this is going through beta, like how much time is it saving? Like how much, how much of accuracy is there? So there is always something that you can find,
I see.
just an example.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Priyam, I'm so curious what you wanted to add.
Sorry, I didn't want to add anything. I actually had a follow-up question based on what Yuen said. Yeah, like in my case, I am struggling with you have those big numbers out there to put, but what if my key result isn't a big number? What if it's like a
Right.
number?
Yeah.
Let's say like, I ran a business of my own, but the business only, the total amount of the business was, the revenue of the business was $50,000, and that's about it. So does that still does that still stay with you, or?
Yes. The number, so here's the thing, the number does not have to be big. It can be big, but as long as there is a number, you're like 10 times more believable and more interesting. Someone just cares that it's so easy to get on as a candidate and say, oh yeah, I've been, optimizing processes and working with customers throughout my career, and the recruiter or hiring manager, they have nothing to grab onto. But if you just have that clear, concise statement, I've been a developer working on products with users, X amount of users, or solving X type of problem, it's just crystal clear. Great questions. And we're going to dig into this more and how we can do this. So this structure, keep it with you and use it to drive every stage of your job search. When you get on a networking call, you'll have that 20 seconds to, it's going to come organically. We'll start to get like, oh yeah, hey, I've been doing this for X amount of time, recently to this thing, really curious to learn about you. You'll get organic with it. But that same structure, even when you get into the phone screen, the interview process, you're talking to hiring managers. Every interview question that comes your way can be turned into a mini elevator pitch. Oh, have you ever received difficult feedback that was hard to hear? How did you take that? Oh, hey, I'm actually glad you really asked about feedback. You know, I've been working with engineers in agile environments for 8 years. And in fact, we actually recently launched a new product that acquired 10,000 users within the first month. But here's some feedback that I got along the way that really changed how I think about products, right? Share the win first. So we're all going to be like, we all are going to get to the point where we could be these key result robots. Value, 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 number, quantify, quantify, quantify. We'll then get personal about it, build a little story. But if we get in the mindset of that elevator pitch, front loading our conversations with key results to build confidence, people are just going to start to listen to us in a very different way. We're at that point where we're really saying the things that will get us hired. So that's our goal, right? To keep that with us throughout the whole job search. To get to the point where we're conducting a job search, it's not just about applying. We actually need to go out and share these numbers, share this value. So there are a number of networking tactics. But throughout your networking, your whole goal is to connect with people, but also get your value out there. A lot of different tactics that we can review together. It all comes back to that elevator pitch that, like, here's about me. Let's talk about you. So this is the job search process. There are some prerequisites that we need, of course, in fact, if we go to the job search workbook, that's a little bit easier. Things that we'll need to go and conduct this process are elevator pitch, our key result statements. We'll also compose a very brief story. It's kind of like the written version of our elevator pitch, a little bit longer, that we can share everywhere. We also share pieces of it. It sort of acts as this like networking blurb. So we'll need that. We'll need our LinkedIn profile, our resume, and we'll need to be in 5 active communities. These are sort of all the prerequisites that we need to conduct a really powerful job search. And the elevator pitch and the key result is at the core of all of it. So how do we really get key results? Key results are a statement of the work that we did, but it's the result of the work. It's not the busy work. These are actually both Roadmap alumni. Their LinkedIn profiles, it can be boiled down to just, I mean, this was a senior product manager of AI. She did so much stuff, but she was able to boil it down to refined and delivered up to 95% automation, blah, blah, blah. 100%. Anyone reading this understands business value. This one's a little bit longer, but it tells a story. Develop training and onboard program, 1,200 users, 100+ companies, 4 months, 300%. As a recruiter, I'm just like, oh, hiring managers were like, yeah, this person's going to come in and do the same thing in my organization. There's a lot of busy work that they could describe, but busy work doesn't get someone's attention. When we normally think about work, we think about what we did day to day. Oh, well, I used Gusto. I got all the time card sheets in on time. I emailed the contractors to make sure they were filled out correctly. I answered time card questions. This person had this on their resume and didn't mean anything. Person thought through the key results method. Well, who would you want to hire? Person who enabled payroll to administer 40,000 a week and staff American Idol, the Oscars, and Super Bowl, or the person who used Gusto to get time card sheets in on time? Right? This can be all of us. And so many of you probably already have your key results written, and it's just getting to the point of maybe even just identifying which ones to put out into the world. And we'll talk about that too. We'll review one more and then we'll take questions. This one's a little bit tricky because a lot of us might want to hire the person who can do P&L management, drive strategic operations based on budget, revenue, and service. But if the other candidate comes in and they say this, led sales team and office of 25 people to increase site net profit by 36% year over year, we're going to hire that person. This is, of course, the same person. This was actually busy work. It just sounds like very smart busy work. And this is the result of busy work. I am curious to kind of get a feel of how people are thinking about their key results. Is there anyone in the room that you feel like you have your statements written and it's just kind of organizing them and figuring out where they go?
Yeah, me. I have most of the stuff written. I just want to make sure that it's not very repetitive and I'm not like focusing on the same things. But yeah, I have it sort of done.
Okay, nice. Well, we're going to be learning from you. Oh, and it looks like you had something to add there too.
Yeah, my name's Juan. No worries. But yes, I have it written as well. I've seen two ways where some people like to see impact before the action. So is there opportunities where you've seen both things kind of both work, where it's like you increased site net profit by 36% year-over-year by sales? I've just seen both ways. And I'm wondering, which one do you prefer?
Yeah. Your volume is a little low, but I'm pretty sure I heard you. So yeah, thank you. And I would ask yourselves, and I'd ask each other and other people who have their statements written. The most powerful for me is leading with that result first and then describing. So this, you're right, on a resume, this can all be the same statement. You know, led a sales team of sales and operations team of 25 people to increase site net profit by 36% by, you know, strategic P&L management, operations, revenue, and service. Absolutely. Another way to think about how to prioritize them once you have developed them and you're at that point, go back to your highest priority job descriptions, look at the first 3 bullet points, and make sure that your resume addresses those bullet points that are going to be most common for the roles you're pursuing, right? And then, yeah, okay, so we have a couple more questions. Prerna.
Yeah, hi, Melinda. My question is, I think for the projects that are complete or the work that's been done already, I have key results because that impact is measurable. For the stuff that's still ongoing, I'm struggling to describe so like if I'm designing a new pricing strategy, I don't know the impact or the revenue impact of what that pricing is going to have. And so I don't know how to describe that.
Okay. I have an answer for that, but there are so many people in the room who are probably thinking about this. Does anyone else want to comment before I give my answer?
Yeah, I just pasted mine. Hopefully my audio is better. But I just pasted mine on there. And yeah, usually you have a target before you start production of something. And that is where you would lean towards. You can say the progress, like some people were saying, but you normally do have an aim that you're going towards.
Yep. You could be building a strategy plan for a founder that hasn't even started the company. But go and ask that founder, what is the vision? What is the goal? Who are we trying to impact? And now suddenly your product strategy for the founder who hasn't even started the company yet has numbers behind it, right? Oh, developing strategy to help name the founder with X years of experience in this industry, create a product that will impact millions of readers and learners everywhere. You know, always lean into that vision. Yeah, Ali, go ahead.
Got it, thanks.
Hey, I guess when I'm thinking about the elevator pitch and the key results and how you kind of structure everything, I'm in a position where I'm transferring career paths that are not related. So I'm trying to figure out how to tie the key results from my previous experience into something that I could relate to the path that I'm trying to get on now. So do you have any advice or maybe structure on how to do something like that, or is that a question for another time?
We can take that question right now, and probably again, I'm sure there are a lot of people in the room who have thoughts about this, so if you want to drop your ideas in the chat, please do. But we'll just kind of fast track this. Go to the target job description for the role that you want to get and really think through why you got interested in this. and what those areas of expertise are, what those things are that you're doing day to day relate to you, and maybe what you have done in the past. Also, it is totally okay if they haven't, especially if you're, people who are early in their career or who recently graduated, we're not even expecting it. But that said, most of us, no matter where we're at, we can find a connection. Doro Hendricks did that. She came to Roadmap saying, well, I dropped out of my master's program because it was essentially canceled during the pandemic and I didn't know what to do. So I did a coding boot camp, but now I'm just a coding boot camp grad with no experience in engineering and a psychology master's dropout. So no one's going to want to hire me. It's like, whoa, let's just step back. So she did this work of really, let's look at like 4 or 5 job descriptions. Let's go into like, what does it mean to work in a technical environment and how did that relate to her studies in psychology? And what she came up with was, own what she's going for. Don't not say you're not a junior software developer just because you have 0 experience. So, hi, I'm a junior software developer with experience. She's been in a boot camp in front end and back end. But here's the crossover. Been working with analytical and technical processes for 8 years. Because we discovered that the work that she did during her bachelor's and master's was very technical and quantitative. Be transparent during my degrees in psychology, right? But there was this big crossover where technology was important. So you'll be able to develop a story like this, but it does take that work of going into the job descriptions, really thinking through why is this important to you. Job descriptions are a really good starting point to build your story around why you should get hired in a certain role. There's a whole process to this. This is just first exposure, Allie. I'm not expecting you to see this. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go and write a story today and get there. But just so you see what the final product can look like, and we'll have time to get more into that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so a key result is, it's a quantifiable statement. It's the result of the work, not the work itself. We're going to go into breakout rooms and we'll start with our elevator pitch. And then we're just going to ask each other some questions that help all of us start to think about our superpowers, remember who we are, and get to the point where afterwards, we'll do this exercise today to brainstorm. And then afterwards, all of us alone or with someone else can go through and we can actually build key result statements. But how we're going to get there. And for all of us who do have key result statements written, this is still really helpful in thinking about our superpowers and skills in new ways. So we're going to go into breakout rooms and introduce ourselves with our elevator pitch, however we feel, just say hello. And then ask each other a question. And we're going to follow that question with 3 whys. So you might ask the person in front of you, hey, what do people ask you for help with the most often on projects? And they say, grammar and editing. Okay, why? Listen, ask why again. Listen, ask why again. Any thoughts on why we ask why 3 times?
Like from an engineering standpoint, usually we keep asking why to identify some kind of like root cause issues. But I can tell that like from this kind of perspective, we keep asking why in order to dig deeper into the value of what we do. Like, why are we doing some things and what value does it bring?
Yeah. Both. Yeah, it's root cause analysis. And it's also to make the person in front of you just downright like, I don't know, but that's the point where you're going to go deeper and figure out closer to like who you are and the value that you bring. In improv, all right, sketch comedy on the side. One of the activities is this like 3 things. If you ask people to tell you 10 things they eat for breakfast, you're going to get omelets, eggs, all the normal things. Then if you ask that same group, oh, tell me again 10 more things to eat for breakfast, you're going to get. Then if you ask a 3rd time, that group is going to say things that are just like alpha and outer space, right? There's the same thing with this exercise. We're going to ask why, we're going to ask why, we're going to ask why. Just one question, 3 whys and take notes for each other, reflect back afterwards, see what you get from it. Part of it is also just getting comfortable talking about things that we don't talk about every day related to our job search. And then we'll learn how to pull this information together so we can all build key result statements. So that is what we're going to do in breakout rooms. Does anyone have questions on what we're going to do in breakout rooms? Okay. Whoops. I'm just going to create the breakout rooms really quickly. If you get to your breakout room and someone like, give it 30 seconds to 60 seconds. And if nobody shows up, please come back to the main session. Don't just sit there for 15 minutes by yourself if something goes wrong with the breakout room. Okay. I will see you all back in 15 minutes. So elevator pitches plus the 3 whys exercise that you each get to do.